Well, good Tuesday morning, everybody. How are we all doing out there? We can hear me. A quick thumbs up if we can hear me.
Good morning, Steve.
All right, all right, all right. Who has got something that they just can't wait to share with the group this morning? Somebody's got some energy this morning. What do we got? Let's open the floor. Who's got something going on one of their deals that you just got to bring to the table? Got the great Kate Garvey with us this morning. I know she's dying to talk to us about some VA stuff that she's been dealing with. Lauren, let's have it. What do you got?
All right, this one's fun. Okay,
All
so
right.
I was in back and forth negotiations for a buyer on this property for probably 3 weeks. Um, kept coming a little under. Property's been on 50 days or so, right? And the seller kept coming back over list price. We are the only people coming on this house. It is wild. So then he finally discloses while we're like in foreclosure, he needs this money to be able to pay everything off and get somewhere to live. Okay, cool. I go do some digging, look to see what beyond the regular mortgage, because it looks much lower than what we're offering, is going on here. I come across two what appears mortgages. They're not actually, but for $1 each. So my curious brain goes and searches this company that has these liens against the property, to come to find out it is one of these very much scam type situations where we will give you up to $5,000, expect no repayment on it, but in return, what we get is a 40-year contract to be the ones to sell your house if you ever sell it. In addition to this, if you ever get foreclosed on, we are owed 3% of the value of your home. And if you ever try to use somebody else, when you close that home, we are owed that 3%. And if you die, your kin owe us 3% of the value of your home. So huge scam. Um, the current listing agent had no idea any of this was going on, or that he probably didn't even have right to sell this property. And I just thought, I remember hearing of something like this like years ago and I'd totally forgotten about it. So for it to come back up, I thought was very interesting.
This is awesome. I've heard of this, but I haven't seen it come into play. So, and you're saying there are two of these on the same property?
That's correct. They probably assumed, I believe it doesn't tell you. They only write the lien for $1. So I don't know exactly how much he got, but they probably assume, they're going to get their money back. And oftentimes I read lots of stories against this company. They're given like $1,000, $1,500. So like very small amounts to essentially like sell your soul to the company.
Can you share the name of the company, Lauren? Do you feel comfortable doing that? I'm just.
Yeah. Yep. So listed as the lien is called MV of MA LLC. Um, and additional to what I found on the company itself, I kept coming across litigations with the state of Massachusetts against this company for the insanely high number of incidences they've had. Right, so it's a company out of Florida, it looks like, but they operate in Massachusetts under another name that kind of makes it sound like a reputable Massachusetts option for people who just need cash for something fast.
Yeah. Yeah. I just did the quick search on it here. It's agreements typically between 500 and 5,000 in exchange for a 40-year exclusive right for MV Realty to act as their listing agent when they decide to sell their property. And these contracts include clauses that impose substantial penalties if homeowners choose to sell without MV Realty or transfer ownership in other ways, such as through inheritance or foreclosure. Um, yeah, so it looks like Mass Attorney General Office filed a lawsuit against them in 22. Huh. Yep. And then it does say, though, in response to mounting legal pressures, MV Realty filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 23.
They did, but they're from what I've gathered is they're still holding any current contracts to be repaid.
Yeah. Have they talked to legal counsel about it? This is suggesting that it raises questions about the validity and enforceability of these mortgages.
Yeah, so I don't know what the sellers have done on this. Like I said, I was representing the buyer side in all this, and the agent representing the seller is kind of a one-off single broker type situation. He is his own entity, um, and didn't know kind of what to do. So I had actually provided some guidance. We were trying to get him resources to get into like a rental, something like that. Was trying to help him what the seller actually needed to net to move on from the property without like the foreclosure, things like that. So been in pretty deep with this one, and right
Are
now it's
you
just
at this point, are you sure you guys have the seller net sheet right? Like what does the seller actually need down to the penny or no?
um very close, if not to the penny, right? So I found original mortgage, I found three additional mortgages, one lien on the property, and then these two um, going through like everything.
Yeah.
I've, like I said, only been able to communicate through the agent. I haven't spoken to like the seller
And
itself.
all of those added up are too much. It's not worth
Um,
market value for the property.
no, it's pretty much like right there, but he still wants more because he also wants cash to be able to move on to something else. He's hoping to put, 10, 20,000 into his pocket, and after commissions both sides, plus potentially, that 3% that has to go somewhere else and paying everything off. It's really tight.
Anybody else have any experience with this company? Anything like this? Any guidance, feedback for Lauren? It would seem like there would be a legal firm that's like kind of been on this and could give some guidance. Go ahead, Kate. I see you're unmuted.
So I've experienced this a few times. I've never actually experienced an actual mortgage being recorded though, so that's kind of interesting to me. But I have, just because I do a lot of probate work, um, and estate planning stuff. A lot of times elderly people will fall into this little trap, for a better lack of a better word. Um, and like, to me, you read these contracts and they're absolute BS, right? And it's usually a firm or someplace from North Carolina or Florida, and they don't usually have an operating LLC or anything like that in the state, like in Massachusetts or Connecticut. That's where I deal with personally. So I kind of attack the contract from there because they're not legally supposed to be practicing business in that state without registering in them. So I've been successful at kind of taking apart the contract, but in the beginning, right? I haven't experienced it when it's been this far along. So that's super interesting, but it's actually a big issue. I see it more in Connecticut than I do in Massachusetts, to be honest with you. Um, and there's not that much case law on it right now. So, but it is a big issue.
And so, if you, how does it work, Kate? Where like, let's say the seller gets some legal guidance that like that contract is null and void. You don't have to worry about it. The problem is we've got a lien on the property, and now there's no way to get rid of that lien without that other company saying that they're in agreement. Correct? Like, you can't just get rid of a lien. Like they would have to sign something.
Correct. But I mean, arguably, if the company's not valid, is the lien valid? Um, you know, there's ongoing. I was just talking. I don't know if anybody knows Keith Fuller, but he's a really good attorney in Connecticut, and he does sometimes he does like real estate litigation things. And we had a big talk about this, and he's just like, there's, because it's new, there's not a lot of precedent to follow. So I feel like precedent is going to be set, in the near future. Um, but that's another reason why you have title insurance, because title insurance may be able to address, um, you know, a lien that is, possibly invalid. So that's also a conversation that you could have with your title insurance company.
And so if we get title insurance involved on something like this, they may actually look at it and go, hey, we understand that that lien is there. We're still willing to issue title because we don't
Mhm.
believe it's valid.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like they'll do an indemnity letter stating something like you just said.
Yep. So that could be something to look at, Lauren. I wonder if it's worth getting a title company involved to say, hey, what is your guys' stance? Like,
Yeah.
can we get title insurance on this property? And if we can, do we just want to ignore those two liens? Because if those go away, is that enough to now make this where the seller gets what they want?
Yeah, and it feels like even if they were to get away with it, it doesn't feel like from what I read on it that it would follow the buyer and the buyer's responsibility because it's a contract with that person. And they just use the property, and it doesn't say they record it as a mortgage, so it does show up in public record as a mortgage. They call it something else. I can't remember top of my brain what it is called. But that's how they have to file it in Massachusetts. So I'm curious if it wouldn't affect it because, like I said, it follows the person who took the money, not like the property.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, ChatGPT is saying further legal action revealed that MV Realty and its affiliates repeatedly violated court orders by failing to produce required documents and information during the discovery process. As a result, in 2025, the court found MV Realty in contempt and imposed sanctions, including default judgments holding the company liable for all claims against it. The court also ordered MV Realty to pay restitution to affected homeowners and cover the Commonwealth's legal expenses. So I don't know. It looks like maybe in 2025 we've had some movement here, Lauren. That's worth looking up.
I was looking at their website too. They were bragging about how they had like 1,000 customers. Where is it? They had 3,400 contracts that was going. They averaged that per month. I'm sorry. They were expected to have over 32,000 at the as of August 22. Expected to have 100,000 more in the next 12 months. They grew their commission value to 288 million, projected to reach 425 million by December 22. So like they caught him at a good time, but that's ridiculous.
Anyone else with any kind of input on this scenario or have any dealings with this company? Well, Lauren, this will be we definitely want to hear round two or future dealings because I think maybe you're going to be able to put this deal together. So I would say let's get some, additional legal advice. Let's get a title insurance company to take a look at this and see if they'd be willing to insure it without those being removed. My brother just put in the chat memorandum of contract.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Adam, are you in a position to chat on what we were talking about offline?
One second. What's up? You want to talk about the open houses?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting what you were thinking with your own property.
Yeah. So in Florida, the real estate market is I don't even know the word for it, really bad. So typically an open house, in my opinion, doesn't help sell houses when you don't have when you're in more of a buyer's market, right? So the comment I made to Stephen was, I didn't hold an open house on my house because I thought it was useless. And just to give some kind of feedback on it, I've held open houses before in this community, and you're getting 1 to 2 people. And unfortunately, what that does is it almost gives a negative impact in terms of buyer demand, right? So when you have these open houses in Massachusetts, you've got 30 people coming through the open house. It's more of a sense of urgency for the buyers to submit an offer. Where down here, buyers understand they have 90 days to make a decision on some of these houses because houses are just sitting, right? So you lose the whole demand factor when you walk into an open house and you're the only one there. there's no urgency to submit an offer. There's no urgency to submit a best offer. And, you know, in my opinion, you're just wasting time. So what I did was I said, hey, look, I only want to, you know, we also have pets, we have kids. And so we just went the private showing route and said, hey, look, you know, obviously people that are serious are going to be working with an agent and scheduling showings. So instead of the tire kickers, let's just, you know, handle the private showings. So, um, you know, there was probably 5 open houses on Sunday in my community. There's, just to give you a flavor of my community, there's about 500 homes. There's about 50 homes for sale. So 10% of the neighborhood is on the market right now. Half of that's new construction, half of that pre-construction. So, I mean, they're just literally driving by for sale signs and open houses as they get to my house. So kind of crazy market down here.
Yeah, so just, I don't think I've ever brought a house to market without an open house, and I've been in a lot of different markets. So I just, wanted him to kind of share that experience. Obviously, he's, listed a lot of houses, and had a lot of experience doing this. I think it was an interesting approach, and I think with a lot of thought behind why he did it. So, you don't always have to do it. I think feel the market out, understand, what the pros and cons of doing an open house is, or are, and then work with your seller to make a decision on, is this the right thing to do for your specific property.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to keep in mind is with me exiting the Florida market, you know, having buyers in Florida is not on my radar, right? So, you know, there could be unrepresented people there, obviously, but not necessarily my radar. So that was another reason why you know, I said it didn't make sense.
Anybody have any questions around that, or any other times where you felt like open house just didn't make sense for a listing that you were bringing to market? And I think there's obviously, some of the higher end luxury. If you've got, somebody that's a little bit more private, like they just don't want that, right? So I think you've got to be careful with just going in and saying, this is my marketing strategy, right? We list on Thursday, we do an open house on Saturday or Sunday or both, right? And they're going, I don't know, and you leave and you think you've laid out this great marketing plan. And the other person said, no, you don't have to do that, you know? And that just took the stress level off of them of like, I don't, I'm freaked out. I don't want all these people randomly in my house all at once. Right. So make sure you're having a conversation. You're not just telling them what you're going to do. It's a back and forth. This is a strategy. How does this sound to you? Right.
I'll, I'll share something else with you. So I have a Ring doorbell, and it's disclosed on the listing that I have audio and video recordings here in Florida. So I just happened to be listening to the conversation of the agent on the way in, and I have a old school lockbox, because I know that there's part-time agents, especially in Florida. He's like, I don't know why this agent's using this lockbox. You know, anyone could just get the code and get into your house. Um, and I'm thinking to myself, like, so the amount of agents that don't subscribe to the Bluetooth version is going to potentially limit your showings. Number one. Number two, I take the lockbox off at night, so no one has access to it at night, right? And it's just funny how there's just some assumption. You know, this guy was just making so many assumptions before he entered my door. I also didn't put a sign out front, right? And I did that on purpose because if I walk out my front door, 2 doors to the left is a for sale sign, and 3 doors to my right is a for sale sign. And in my listing, I have the first line says, I'm going to give you 20,000 in closing costs. I'm going to pay 12 months of HOA up front. I'm going to give you a 1-year home warranty, and I'm going to give you $1,000 lender credit if you use my preferred lender. So I don't have a sign out front because I don't want my neighbors looking at my listing saying, hey, that's a good idea. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to put that on my listing. And now I've got competition with all the new construction builders having that incentive, and now the pre-owned having that incentive. So it's just funny how this agent's coming in commenting on my lockbox and no sign when there's a reason behind everything that I'm doing, right? So obviously they're not going to submit an offer because she said that stone does not belong. Stone and stucco is not a Florida look. So anyways, just interesting.
Steve, you're muted, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, I
sorry,
can't hear you.
Stacy. Yep, Stacy, I saw your hand go up. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to comment on the open houses. I've had a couple of months of very successful open houses, and I post about them and I had someone ask, but I think it's a certain price point. So, um, certain price point and certain areas, like super successful. I mean, 20 parties through each day, Saturday and Sunday, double open houses. But this past weekend, Saturday, I went to a house in Dedham, $2 million with a buyer, and it's a New England Patriots house. So it was very interesting. There's no sign in the front yard. It like wasn't like marketed online. I could tell on their social media, and it was dead. It was completely dead. We were there for 45 minutes and no one else came through. So it's very interesting which properties have extremely busy open houses, and I bring cookies and balloons and it's like a huge party. And then versus like the $2 million price range, quiet kind of open house at a New England Patriots home. It's very interesting. It's very different. And I'm shocked to hear about Florida. That's crazy.
And I think, right, Stacy, when you're walking through that property, like you're going open house. And if your buyers have been to any other open houses where there are multiple buyers in there and they walk to this one, they go, man, we're not asking or we're not offering full price. You know, if they like it, we're not offering full price on this. Right? I
Yeah.
mean, you just feel the energy of, is this a popular property? And so I definitely think you need to have conversations with your sellers to make sure, like, A, that they want it, and B, that you think it's going to be successful. If you are significantly outside the average sales price in a town, right? If the average sales price is 750 and you're coming on at 200, or excuse me, 2 million, like there's just probably not going to be a lot of buyers. So maybe
Yeah,
open
and it was in a
house.
neighborhood of Dedham that I think the average price point there is like you just nailed it. It's like 6 or 700,000. Those are the super busy open houses. And this was like a little development in Dedham near Route 1. And it was like 10 houses all in that like 1.75, 2 million range. And it's like not in the norm for that area of Dedham. So yeah, it was dead.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
very interesting to see how like that town, I've done open houses there the past couple months, Norwood and Dedham, in the exactly what you said, 700,000 in that area, and they were super busy. So interesting.
Yeah. So, Tyler, I see you're unmuted. What do you got, man?
I was just gonna say for these luxury markets, it's like a lot of people I've spoke with or worked with, and they kind of know that they're not going to get the same amount of turnout as other people at open houses, but they also want to factor in room to negotiate on their price. So let's say, yeah, they ultimately want to get between 1.9 and 2 million at the end of the day. They might come on at that 2.25, knowing they'll sit a little longer. But I've found it to be better to right in the beginning, have it coming soon, create a buzz around it, have a broker open house for it, and invite like the top agents for that entire region there to come in. They're the ones who are going to bring you a buyer for that. And it might take some time, but they will, like, they're ultimately going to be your best friend there rather than just going in with, like a normal open house. And then especially if that's interesting with the Dedham one, especially if you're not having a sign or something either. I mean, I've gone to broker opens for like $10 million houses and they have a sign out front. Um, but they're not marketing it the same way. It's like a very exclusive thing. They're sending it to people. But a lot of that, it depends how much time they got. Do you want to sell this? Do you need an offer this weekend? It's going to be a lot different than, no, I can wait 2 months, 3 months before I get an offer, and I'm fine waiting that long as I get my price.
Yeah, we haven't really talked too much about brokers opens on the morning call, and they definitely have a place. And I think you're hitting the nail on the head on when they can make some sense, right? When you've got something specific, when you've got something more higher end. I think the top agents can absolutely be your friend, and you want to have good relationships with these agents. You want to treat them well. You want to show the house in its best light. So
I love it because like I recently did it with I had a kind of similar situation where we were above the average price point by several $100,000. Um, but I was confident in the value of the house and what has been done to it. I know it was kind of a niche property, but I did a broker's open a little later than I think I should have. But I brought in a bunch of people that I know it was on the Cape, and over 90% of them all validated the price point. They gave me like great feedback on it, told me why I might not be getting as many people, and it came down to like something as simple as doing some work with the pool, um, and they were right. And then after we did that, we ended up getting an offer. Um, so they can be very helpful. I mean, some of them are a little petty. Like I had one woman tell me that my listing shouldn't be anywhere close to her listing because hers is a lot more charming than mine. So it's like you'll run into things like that. Like your competition's probably not going to like it, but I think the real seasoned veterans there, um, they don't have much to lose by coming there, especially if they have buyers too that they're going to be sending this to.
I think one of the key things that you just or nuggets that you just dropped in there, Tyler, was the feedback. And here's why the feedback can be so instrumental is it validates what you guys discussed at your listing presentation as far as where the market is, right? And now it's not you telling the seller, hey, this is where I think we need to be priced, or these are the repairs I think you made. Hey, I just brought in 20 of the top 50 agents in the market, and here's their feedback, right? Ideally, if you can get it in writing, if there's a little survey that they're willing, I think just make it super easy. If you could have a QR code where they just fill out, how did you think we were priced? What could we do better? What did you love? What did you not love? Just 5 or 6 easy questions that they could fill out, and even give them, multiple choice. So it takes them 15 seconds to fill this thing out. Right? I mean, handwriting a piece of paper and making them go through all of that, make it easy for them. Right? And then you can turn around and go back to the seller and say, hey, it's not me. These are the best of the best in the market. This is what they are saying, why we don't have an offer or where we need to be. So it's such an easier conversation to have with your seller.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
like that idea of having them fill out a survey. I would do that next time because I was just absorbing all of it, trying to remember everything. But yeah, I would
Yep.
definitely do that next time.
Yeah. And just make it multiple choice so it's easy. Jeff.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, a couple things on open homes. It's yeah, I can see it can be a kind of a double-edged sword. And yeah, we do walk in and we do talk about what we like to start off with as part of strategy. Linda and I together opening weekend, we like to be there for them because we like the attraction potentially of getting that first weekend rather than some places saying, hey, it's going to sell itself. We want to show them that we are doing the work, to put in the time, not just say, hey, we're here getting a paycheck because, too much common sentiment is hey, all we do is write checks. And we know way too much that we do a ton of work to do this, but we also want them to know how much work we're doing. Going now ahead to the brokers tours, we're running into right now. We've got a luxury listing. It's 1.1. They've already dropped it 100,000 from 1.2. It's a gorgeous gated community down here. Anybody that's down here knows the area. It's Aria in Nokomis, the Venice area. So we have spearheaded a broker tour in there, just our community. I've reached out to each of the listing agents of each of the properties that are available there. We put together we have a feedback form, and there's 7 listings in there. So it is challenging and they are sitting there longer. But we've got a feedback form for them. We've got a process. We've already reached out to everybody, and of the 7 properties, we've got 5 responses that said, hey, they're going to participate. So we've got an agenda for them. And the point of it, what I'm really getting to is I want that buyer to know, while we've been on 4+ months, pushing 5 now, that we are doing everything we can, that we are actively trying to do stuff here, getting feedback from those that come through, following up on the feedback. Now we're going to have a broker's tour. We're inviting these people from the other brokerages telling them, invite your people from your brokerage to come here so we can get more people, more eyes on it. And, even if we can't, when we get an open home, we get people that come through, they say, hey, this home may not be right for us. Well, hey, you know what? I know this one right over here around the corner that maybe we can help you with. So it's an opportunity to help sell something. First, try to get ours, but they may have that client that says, hey, I had somebody come through one of my open homes. This home isn't for them, but you know what? Yours is on the waterfront. I think we can do something together. It's been collaborative with the people that you work with, and who knows, you just might see them on the other side of a transaction somewhere. And the people I've talked to, they find it extremely collaborative, that we're putting something together in the community when nobody else is. So at least we can go to our seller and say, listen, we're going the extra mile to do this stuff for you.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify on a little bit of terminology that Jeff's using there and make sure everybody understands. We definitely, newer agents, I don't think are going to be familiar with some of these terms. So we got brokers open, right? So this is different from an open house. This is typically where it's just your property and you are inviting other agents from other brokerages to come and see it. And then you have a broker tour, or sometimes called a broker caravan. So this is where you get multiple properties in a line, right? Maybe in a neighborhood, and they're all going to be open again just for agents. This isn't open to the public, and this was very, very common pre-internet. Basically, your office, your real estate office, would do this a lot of times once a week. Right. And what would happen is you'd have your office meeting. Remember, there's no MLS is not available. There's no internet. So it's just these books. Right. So every 2 weeks, these books might get published with what the new listings are. And you get one picture in the book. Right. So what did the caravan do? It said, hey, everybody that's listed a house at our office, let's set up a tour so all the agents can go and see it. Right. And because what Jeff was pointing out here is, there is just something different about going and seeing a property than looking. Even if we've got all the photos and we got the virtual tours today, you guys know, I mean, a property can look significantly different in person, right? Or it's just got some stuff that just isn't conveyed very well online. So sometimes just getting into a bunch of properties, you go, dang, like, I got to show this to my buyer, right? So if you are slow, although there's not broker caravans set up, and it's very unusual to see these now. But if you just have some time, it might be just behoove you to just go look at some properties in your marketplace, even if you don't have a buyer for them, just because maybe something's going to surprise you.
Yeah, we did a broker tour specifically to our property early on with this, and now doing the broker tour. Again, getting that caravan, getting a group of people together, and I think to your point, we like to go out and do previews for homes, even if we don't have a client, just to see, hey, let's go look at a different area. And in this case, it's again, knowing what your competition is. Going into this community, and things change. A couple places have fallen off, either canceled or sold. Other ones have come on that we haven't seen, and it's just a good habit to know what your competition is within your neighborhood too.
Yeah,
It's a great learning experience. Like I did that on the Cape recently too, did the caravan, and they brought in somebody who was like the real high up in the Cape Cod Association of Realtors, and she was explaining a lot of very important rule changes that I wasn't even aware of. So we got to learn from that, and then like Jeff and Steve are saying, you get to see properties in a different light, and you might send them to people.
yeah. This was great. This was great. We had a couple of really cool topics today, a couple of things that just don't come up too often. I appreciate you guys bringing them to the table, and everybody unmuting those mics today. So it was great. Go have yourselves an awesome Tuesday, and we'll be back here again live Wednesday morning. All right. Take care, everybody.